Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's live broadcast, Streamline Support and Improve Service Delivery with SolarWinds ITSM. My name is Helen Owens-Pope. I'm the Marketing Manager for the EMEA region here at Kenson Loop1, and I'll be facilitating today's webinar. Before we get underway, we just wanted to run a quick poll with attendees today, just to get a feel for your role within your organization. So I'm going to launch a poll, and while I go through the rest of the housekeeping and introductions, you'll have an opportunity just to fill in your responses. If you could participate, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Let me just start that. Okay. So I'm delighted to be joined today by Loop1 CEO Bill Fitzpatrick, together with Patrick Knoope, Manager of Solutions Engineering within the SolarWinds ITSM group. We'll be kicking the session off with Bill, who will set the scene for today's webinar and provide an overview of ITOM, ITSM, and then introduce ITOM Plus, the Loop1 framework based on people, tools, and Lime, the Loop1 monitoring maturity model that pulls this all together to drive business outcomes. Following on from Bill, Patrick will provide an overview of SolarWinds Service Desk before diving into the live demo. So before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. So all attendees will be muted throughout the course of today's presentation. If you experience any technical difficulties, you can send me a chat message via the chat panel in your event window. We'll be running a poll right at the start, as I mentioned earlier, so if you could take a minute to participate. You can submit your questions via the Q&A panel at any point during the presentation, and I will put them to Bill and Patrick later in the session. Today's webinar is being recorded, and we'll share the link with all attendees, typically within about 48 hours of the live broadcast. And lastly, please let us know how we did today by completing the feedback survey at the end of the webinar. So now that you know the basics, on to the topic of the hour, how to make service delivery easier for your employees, and our first presenter today, Bill Fitzpatrick. Good morning, Bill, and hopefully we'll have some poll results.
Thank you, Helen. Appreciate that. Good afternoon to everyone there in Europe, and I'm presenting to you this morning from our headquarters here in Austin, Texas, so it's a beautiful, bright, early morning here for me. For those of you that might be new to the Loop1 name, I wanted to take a couple of minutes just to let you know kind of who we are. A brief bit of information about myself. I co-founded Loop1 in 2009, and I've always been on the engineering side of the house. So I've got all of the different SolarWinds certifications. I actually started my career with SolarWinds back in 2008 as a sales engineer before leaving to co-found Loop1 in 2009. I bought the company from my business partner in 2017, and as we've operated since then, we've really focused on our global expansion and our global capabilities. So today I'm happy to say that we're more than 100 employees worldwide, with offices in London and in Cork, as well as Melbourne, Australia, Singapore, and Sri Lanka. What I want to briefly talk about this morning is the way that we approach using great software, right? So the software that SolarWinds produces is our expertise, and we've built our own framework in terms of being able to get the most out of that software investment, and we call this ITOM Plus. So when working with SolarWinds, you'll see that they talk about their ITOM tool set as well as their MSP tool set, and those are really the two branches of the organization that SolarWinds operates. And this morning, we're talking about ITSM, which falls squarely into their ITOM side of the house for SolarWinds. Understanding that that language gets a little bit jumbled, right? The idea of service management and operations management, they live hand in hand. And so what we've done is we've built this framework that allows us to align our infrastructure monitoring with our service management tools, where really we look for the opportunity to partner with you, where we can become the glue that helps you bring together all of your operations management tools, your service management tools, your deployed applications, and your teams to achieve the business outcomes that you're looking for. And so the first part of Lime is tools, right? It's that ability to have visibility across your organization. And this morning, what we're really talking about is how important it is for service management to play into the operations management tools. So if you're familiar at all with the other tools that SolarWinds sells across what they call their Orion platform, then you'll know that they've got something for every part of your organization to create that visibility. And as we look at the way that ITSM plays into our operations management, part of what we're talking about from an ITSM perspective is, of course, the maturity of the service desk itself, knowing that there's a difference between a fully implemented service desk and a service desk that's only really fulfilling part of what its capabilities are. Within Loop1, we call this being feature complete. So I know from talking to clients for years that it's very, very common to hear that there's been an investment made into software, that the software's been deployed to some extent, but there's almost always a sentiment that they're not sure that they're getting everything that they could from the software they've invested in. And so that's what we mean when we say feature complete. It doesn't mean we're going to deploy every single feature. It means we're going to work with you so that you know what all of the features are and that you're content and confident that you're using the features you want and that you're getting everything you want from the software, even if there are some features that you've chosen not to implement. And of course, without, you won't really reach maturity in the deployment of your tools if you don't have integrations, really strong integrations. That can be integrations between the SolarWinds tools themselves, which there are tons of native automatically correlated data points when you look at the Orion platform. But then there's additional integrations that can be done using the SolarWinds query language and the Orion SDK, as well as some of the API-based capabilities of the service desk. And so we work with you to make sure that in every way possible, we're integrating and automating the tools that you've deployed. And that extends all the way into what we call intelligent dashboards. Service Desk is a great topic that's very end user centric, that when we talk about it from a service desk perspective, people really understand how important it is to provide access to the service desk. There are self-service features that you want to be able to take advantage of, and there are a lot of knowledge sharing capabilities that you want to be able to take advantage of. And as a result, it's very common to say, okay, well, they're going to be very broad access to your service desk platform. What we don't find as often on the Orion side of the house is that same broad access. So we're working with our clients and our end users to make sure that they understand all of the possibilities, that we have stakeholders and application owners that have dashboards that make sense, dashboards that present consolidated information from a range of different products in a way that's easy to see, easy to consume, and is sort of extending that concept of self-service from the service desk into the Orion platform so that you can reduce the load on your teams as well as increase the information sharing across the organization. And intelligent dashboards is an area that can be really challenging for organizations because it's not always obvious what's possible. And so working with a partner like Loop1, we can share with you best practices, we can show you what we've done with other clients, and we can explore ideas with yourselves to make sure that from your service desk to your Orion platform, you have all of the visibility that your teams need. And so talking about the teams, that's really the core of ITOM Plus, it's the people, right? Without the people, we're not going to get anywhere. And what we want to do is make sure that everybody has a chair at the table. This isn't just about practitioners every single day using the tools. This is about every level of your organization partnered with Loop1 and with SolarWinds to where you have access to product managers. You're getting executive participation from SolarWinds. Particularly in North America, they have a new effort that's really driving enterprise relationships. And we're seeing that around the rest of the world as well. While in the rest of the world, there have also been some existing efforts that were there previous to what's been kicked off in North America. But the point is, SolarWinds wants a relationship with you in a way that they haven't in the past. SolarWinds is evolving and maturing just like every company needs to. And part of that story is that they want to be able to connect with your organization to make sure they're really fulfilling your needs and that you're really happy with your investment in the software. Some of you have likely seen messaging over the last several months from SolarWinds inviting you into conversations and looking for connections that they've not traditionally looked for in the past. And the overwhelming response to that has been that people have more or less said, this is great. We've always wanted this, and it's great to know that SolarWinds is expanding the way that we can connect with them. And so Loop1 is a key part of that, because while SolarWinds has great programs through the Customer Success Center that allow you to get training via the web, that allow you to connect to the product teams, when you really want to go full-scale, global, architected design, deployment, and 24/7 support with full managed services, that's what Loop1 is here to do. So we're looking to bring our people together with your people as well as the SolarWinds team to really, again, drive business outcomes and get the most from your tools investment. And the real bedrock of how we do that is what we call LIME. It's the Loop1 monitoring maturity model. And you'll notice the very first line in this slide, and I'm guessing Patrick will be smiling to see it, is ITSM, right? Because for us, it really does start with the service desk. And that's a challenge because in a lot of organizations, the service desk doesn't always get that sort of front and center position that frankly it needs. Because all of the other questions, what should we be monitoring? How should we be monitoring it? Where should the information go when the monitoring has an issue that it detects? Those questions are all answered by the service desk. And so if you don't have that integration, if you don't have that high level of correlation between what's happening in your operations tools and your service desk tools, then there's definitely room for improvement and there's a better quality of business outcomes that we can help drive together. And that's very much in line with the maturity of the tools that you're using for service desk and the way that those tools are interacting with both the organization as well as the operations teams. And when we really get down into the run book of what LIME is, it's really looking hard at the performance, the availability. And that's not just where things should stop, right? In years past, we've seen terms like compliance and security, and they're like an afterthought. There's a separate team and they come behind everybody else like the cleanup crew. And that's just frankly not the way this works, right? I've been in software for 20 years. My career started at Microsoft. And I will tell you that even back then, Microsoft had a very reactive approach to security. You know, years ago, you'd install a copy of a server and it would have all kinds of services turned on by default. And we know today that that's not the way to do it. So I've lived through this journey where we've watched security and compliance as well as audit capabilities become integral to our day-to-day operations. When we deploy a new application, we don't deploy it and get it working and then check to see if it's secure. We design security in from the beginning, and that's why you don't see a separate column or a separate row in our framework for security, because our framework has security and compliance built in. It's intrinsic to what we do, and we don't do anything without thinking about the security implications. And that also goes to compliance, and that's a great tie back to the service desk. From a compliance perspective, we need to know what should be as opposed to what is. We need to have ways of understanding what we intended to do versus what's actually in the environment. And so SolarWinds has great operations tools. Network Configuration Manager and Server Configuration Manager are terrific ways to be able to audit different devices in the organization, whether they're network or whether they're server. And those capabilities extend into other tools where there's complementary capability around tools like Security Event Manager and Access Rights Manager. So SolarWinds themselves have a very strong security offering that goes all the way into threat management and other capabilities that, again, can be tied back to the service desk to help ensure that our compliance is both understood, audited successfully, compliance is ascertained, and remediation is done as necessary. And so that's just a few minutes about Loop1 and about the model that we use. And so what I'm going to do now is turn it over to Patrick so he can tell you more specifically about the service desk and what you can gain from having it deployed correctly in your world. So Patrick, it's over to you.
You should be able to hear me now. I just needed to find the unmute button. Thanks, Bill. Great content and a great kickoff for my part of the session. because it really aligns to the, of course, story that I'm going to tell today. So to start with, a little bit of introduction about myself. I'm Patrick Knoope. I'm manager of the solution engineering team within SolarWinds ITSM, specifically for the EMEA team, so for Europe. And within that team, I'm also managing the customer onboarding and customer support team. So with that, responsible for, at the end, the delivery of our solutions to all of our customers in Europe. And within the solution engineering role is really critical to look at the requirements of a customer, the challenges a customer have, and how to translate it into a solution on how we can provide some business value to those customers. So when you look at the ITSM, IT service management solution that Bill also was talking about, which is the front layer basically of an IT operation model, it's also the reason why SolarWinds added a IT service management solution to their portfolio. SolarWinds as a company has a lot of different tools around operation management, tools to manage your IT infrastructure or to monitor your IT infrastructure. But on top of that, there's a layer where you either want to communicate to your end users, but also you want to follow certain processes for your service delivery, but also for managing your infrastructure in your organization. So even if you're using one of the tools within SolarWinds to, for example, perform a change to your router, to your switches in your network, you still want to have a process related to that where someone needs to do an approval whenever you want to perform that certain change. You want to schedule that change. You want to have it go to a change advisory board to approve that. So there are a lot of processes related to all of those IT stuff that you guys are doing with those operational tools that you also need to manage to make sure that at the end the quality of delivery of your service is well performing. Now, why SolarWinds Service Desk as a solution? When you're specifically looking at our ITSM solution, we are an industry leader. So when you look at the market, there are a lot of different ITSM solutions in the market. But when you look at the different review platforms, and I will also show that on the next slide, is that you will see that SolarWinds Service Desk is one of the most reviewed and also highest rated solutions in the market. And then specifically, when you look at those reviews, you will see that those reviews are coming from customers that are mainly talking about that they believe that they are getting a great customer experience with our solution. And it's not only on using the solution, when there's an agent working on the solution or an end user working on the solution, but it's also to implement the solution. It's easy to use and easy to configure. What you see in a lot of different tools, almost any ITSM solution has a service portal, has an incident overview, but it's important to make those easy to use so they get easily adopted within an organization. Like having a service portal to reduce the amount of tickets within your organization is great, but if it's not friendly to use, people remain to keep their sending in emails to the service desk, remain to go and give a call to the service desk, but they will not use the service portal how it's supposed to be used. On top of that, we are a complete service platform, which basically in our case means that we are not only providing the platform to IT departments. So yes, we have it's an ITSM solution focusing on an IT team where we have an ITIL best practice framework built out in it. But we also allow with our capabilities that other teams can also use the platform to provide their service to an employee within an organization. So with a lot of our customers, you see that they're using the solution for HR teams, for finance teams, facilities teams as well. And they can all provide services to those employees. And especially nowadays with COVID and everyone working from home, you see at a lot of our customers that they are using that service platform to allow their employees to order the stuff they need to work from home, like ordering a monitor from the IT team, getting a standing desk from the facilities team delivered to their house, or all stuff like that is what our platform allows you to do. And then it's a modern service desk. So we are a cloud-based solution. We only have our solution in the cloud, and we are a multi-tenant cloud solution, which means basically there's one version of the software which all of our customers are on. Whenever we deliver a new capability in our solution, and we deliver around 150 releases, 175 releases a year with new functionalities and improved user interfaces, you will see that all customers are on that new version at the same time. So you don't need to perform a manual upgrade of the solution, and we will ensure that it will never break the capabilities that you've built in, like the configuration you did in. Also, we are using new innovations in our solution like AI, machine learning, live chat capabilities, and automation workflows. Okay, so a little about, and that's also coming back from the first point on the previous slide, is what customers are saying about our ITSM solution. When you look at the different review platforms, and I would definitely encourage you guys to have a look at one of those, you will see that SolarWinds Service Desk is one of the highest rated products on those review platforms. The most reviewed product as well, especially when you look at Gartner Peer Insight, we receive a lot of reviews on the website and also very high ratings. And again, that is really coming back to the customer experience, not only from a like the technical part where they are the solution is easy to use, but also the vendor, how we are to work with, how we help them to implement the solution and get you onboarded and throughout the life cycle of your subscription. Okay, then we go into a little demonstration, just quickly checking. Are there any questions so far? Otherwise, we jump into the live demonstration.
Nothing at the moment, Patrick.
Okay, so let's go in there. And for the live demonstration, I will kick off with showing you guys an end user portal, so an employee portal or customer portal, where the employee would go to basically submit a new ticket or search the knowledge base, but also to submit a request from any department within the organization, like I talked about before. So when we're looking at this home screen on the service portal, we have a big driver for self-help. So we have a big search bar on the homepage over here where I can directly search for something. So let's say I have an issue with my laptop. I will search for that, and that will directly return me any results from the service catalog, but also from knowledge articles. Not only that can help me fix my own issue and prevents me from basically creating a ticket with the service desk, gives me a quicker time to resolution, but reduces the amount of tickets that are being created for the service desk. But also I can generate a service request instead of actually creating a ticket, because a ticket will be created and will go to the level 1 support team. And then they need to classify the ticket, then they will need to ask some additional information from the end user. But when I would submit a service request, I basically directly get the form that is related to that specific service request. And based on that, then I will get the service delivered in a quicker manner and will ensure the service delivery of that item. Now, in this case, I want to jump into the new ticket creation page because I want to show you guys that even what you will see within a lot of organizations is it's great to have that search bar on the homepage of the self-service portal. But what you will also see, once people will know that there's a new ticket button over here, still a lot of employees will directly click that new button and will go and create a new ticket. So even if over here I'm saying I have an issue with my laptop, what you will see on the right side of the screen that again, we're giving those suggestions to the end user. So it doesn't really matter if they use the search on the homepage or not. We still give them those suggestions and try to get them away from creating a new open break fix ticket and either point them to a service catalog item or point them to a knowledge article which can help them fix their own issue. Now, let's say issue with Zoom. Even if they are creating the ticket, they want to continue creating it. What you see in a lot of organizations is that employees are having issues with categorizing the ticket in the right way. And it's pretty important to categorize tickets in the right way because that can help you to drive some automation behind the ticket. You can automatically route it to the correct team, reducing the amount of steps that are needed with it. But it will also help you to gather the right information from your end user, because based on the categories and subcategories I'm selecting in here, the form will change automatically and will ask for the information required for this specific type of issue. So what we did in here is because we've seen in our customer base that a lot of employees within organizations are selecting the wrong categories, and it's hard when you have a lot of different categories in your service desk to pick the right one. So what we're doing in here is doing a bit of artificial intelligence and suggesting, based on historical data, keyword matching, and all of those components, suggesting what will be the right category for this specific type of ticket. So it's reducing the amount of steps that a end user wanted to take, but on the back end also for the service desk that needs to deliver an answer to this specific ticket. And based then on the category and subcategory that I'm selecting, you will now see that a certain field popped up based on the type of ticket I'm creating. Okay. Now, in addition of creating a ticket, we have, I've already said it a couple of times, we have a big focus on the service catalog. And the service catalog can be used to provide any kind of service or product to your end users. And like I said before, that can be IT-related services and products, but it is also pretty often used by other departments within the organization. So when you look at our service catalog on our self-service portal, you will see that it's not only focusing on IT with application support, change requests, hardware items where you can request a laptop or so, but it's also having categories like facilities where I can report a broken light bulb, or going into HR where I can request a new employee onboarding or an address change or whatever type of service or product I want to be able to provide to my employees. I can basically build them out into my service catalog. And then per service catalog item, you're going to build out the form that is related to that. So look at all the paper forms you might currently have within your organization, which you like get delivered on your desk, and you then need to fill it all into the computer. You can basically digitalize all of those forms and relate them to your service catalog items in your catalog. And whenever they get requested, that information will automatically be stored against the request. So if I'm submitting this entire form, all of the data that I've entered here will be stored against the request, and will also be used in the process related to that. And that is really where service delivery is coming back. We want to make sure that we deliver the service on time, but also with the right quality. And we want to ensure that we're following the agreements we made with our end users. So measuring our SLAs and making sure they are not breaching, that we're delivering on time, basically. Okay. Helen, are there any questions so far? Otherwise, I will switch to the backend side of things and continue a bit in there.
Well, we have one question, but it's probably more of a question for Bill, just around asking if we provide an SDK for partners or end users, and this is with Loop1 training.
Yeah, I saw that question, Helen, and I sent a response to the participant. But for those that are on the call, there is an SDK for Orion. Patrick, can you speak a little bit to what's available from a service desk perspective in terms of APIs?
In terms of APIs, yeah, we have as I said, we are a cloud solution. So what we basically have is an open REST API platform, and it's also well documented. So, and there's also some information we can share after. But basically, we have an open REST API where any component of the solution is accessible through that API. So you can either create items, delete items, update items on any type of component. So incidents, problems, changes, asset information can all be automatically populated in there.
Right. So there's the rundown there on the Service Desk API. And of course, we've got the Orion SDK and APIs as well. So yeah, to answer the question, those are definitely available. And then from a Loop1 perspective, we do have classes that are designed specifically around the Orion SDK, but we will be adding courses around the Service Desk APIs. We'll be adding some of the Service Desk APIs into our other courses. So look for that coming from us down the road. But thanks for the question. And I'll turn it back to you, Patrick. Go ahead.
Yep, thanks. And I think it's also good to add there that we have a native integration with Orion. So if it's about Service Desk and Orion, integrating those two together, we have a native integration for both alerts and asset information. Okay, so let's go to the back end of the solution where the Service Desk agents will basically live in. There are a lot of components in here, so we're definitely not going to cover them off all today. But I want to just give you guys a couple of quick highlights in here. So whenever an agent logs into the solution, they will start at a dashboard where they can build their own dashboard with important KPIs to this specific agent. And then from there, they can jump into any module of the solution. So basically, within the Service Desk part, we're covering the core ITIL processes, incident problem change release management, a service catalog, our knowledge base. From there, we can go into our inventory, which is basically populating our CMDB in here. So our inventory can be based on discovery solutions that we provide from the Service Desk perspective, but can also be that integration to Orion, integration to SCCM. We have a couple of integrations out of the box there. And then from there, you also have a procurement module where you can do contract management, warranty information. You have your vendor management, and you can do software compliance against those. And then on top of that, we have a reporting module where you can run reports basically across all of the modules. Now from here, I want to jump quickly into the incident overview, because that is basically the place where a lot of our Service Desk agents are working on a daily basis. And the incident overview will give you give you all tickets that you are able to access with your permission. So you can also give people certain roles where you can define what type of data they're allowed to see. So if you want to separate certain teams, you can also decide like they can only see their own team's tickets or their own tickets that they are assigned to. You can really make that as specific as you want to, or you can just, like in my case, I have access to all tickets and can see anything I need. Okay. From this overview, we have a couple of ways of quickly seeing what I would need to do on this specific ticket. So what you already see is that on this overview, I can see which SLAs have been breached on which tickets. So in here, I already noticed that there are a couple of SLA breaches on these tickets, so I might need to do something on that. So that is also having an impact on my service delivery, basically, and I pretty quickly need to fix those. So from here, I can directly see what are the SLAs that are breached. These are all active breaches, and I can see what time are they overdue. So in this case, 15 hours, which is quite a lot. So I need to take a couple of actions. In this case, I see one is a no status change. So I might need to do something about that. And to do so, I don't actually have to jump into the ticket. I can get a quick preview from the ticket directly by going over this eye over here. Get a quick preview, and then from here I could say, actually, I want to change the status directly from this view without drilling down into the ticket, do some quick actions. Same for reassigning the ticket. If I believe dial pad issues, something I can definitely work on and know all about dial pad, so let me reassign it to myself. And then based on some automation rules behind that, automatically we also updated the status in here. So now one of those breaches has already been fixed. I can also see that there's an upcoming breach. So instead of looking what is already breached, I can see what is upcoming. So I can prioritize my work in that way as well. Okay, now from here, let's do
a little bit about automated escalation within Service Desk. What are the capabilities around ticket handling for automated escalation?
Yeah, and then you're specifically talking about those SLAs, right? I guess. So when you're looking at one of those,
from one of the participants asking whether or not there is any incident ticket handling automated escalation.
Yeah, definitely. So based on those SLAs that you guys configure, so you will set those SLAs where you define like does a ticket needs to be resolved or commented or updated within a certain time frame. If you don't meet that SLA, you can set certain automation actions based on that. So you can, for example, automatically update the status to escalate it. You can raise the priority to critical or high. And you can automatically reassign the ticket to an escalation group or your manager. And there are way more automation capabilities that you can apply there, but those are the ones that you see in the most typical scenarios.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so from here, let's jump into one of the tickets first. So let's jump into the issue with SAP and just have a quick look around there. And then after that, I will jump into the new hire request for new employee onboarding to show you guys a little bit about how we use our process workflow engine to streamline processes at organizations and also make sure that the service that gets delivered at the right time with the right steps. So first start at the incident. So I created an incident before where I report an issue with SAP. It's not working. I can take some actions on the bottom of my ticket where I can post an email back to the end user. And I can update the ticket itself, and I can basically go and follow the ITIL process by attaching items to this specific incident. So I can link incidents to each other, tickets to each other, and I can link an incident to a problem when there's an underlying problem. So someone reports an issue with SAP. Is that because there might be an issue just with his install base of SAP on his desktop? But it could also be that there's actually a database problem with SAP, which I want to relate to this specific ticket. And whenever that database issue with SAP gets solved, I want to automatically notify all tickets, all incidents that are related to that specific problem in an automated way. So by linking an issue to a problem, let's check if there's an SAP problem. It's a known issue. We document the what is the root cause, what are the symptoms and the workaround. I see this is not great sample information, but let's connect it anyway. So we are attaching that, and basically now whenever that problem will get solved, the system will automatically suggest me to also close down all of the incidents that are related to that. Now, when you're working as an agent at a specific ticket like this, and you don't really know what type of next step you could take at this specific incident, we have some smarts built in. So what we can already see is that the issue, like the incident that this person reported, has a negative sentiment based on words within the text or so. We also have a couple of suggestions on what to do as a next step to increase the productivity of your end users, but also to speed up like getting a resolution for this end user. So what I can see from here, it's suggesting me to link this incident to a couple of other incidents that are reported related to SAP. It's also suggesting that there are a couple of knowledge articles in our knowledge base that I can use to fix this issue. I can then either link them to this ticket or can take a snapshot of the knowledge article and push it into my comment box with images, links, files included, and post it to my end user. Same for configuration items. It's basically looking at the user profile, which assets are linked to this user, and then suggesting me as an agent to link those to this specific ticket. So I have that as a future reference. Now from here, I want to very quickly touch the CMDB. So by attaching a configuration item against this incident, in this case, I'm going to, instead of using a computer, I'm going to attach the business service, because we're talking about service delivery. But let me search for SAP, there should be one. A business service to this specific incident because we have an issue with the business service SAP. Whenever I jump into that asset, I now linked it to each other. Whenever I now jump into that configuration item within our CMDB, I will be able to see all attributes related to that specific service that I'm providing to my employees. And on the right side of the screen, I will see all relationships to that specific configuration item, to this business service. So I'll see which computers are using this specific business service, and I'll also see on which database it's hosted and which data center it's hosted. And that information can all be populated out of Orion or our discovery solutions. And then on the bottom, you also see the relationships to your incidents, to your changes, to the entire ITIL framework, basically. So that can help you to either see like which users are impacted. That's also a little bit on the like which computers are connected to it. But you can also see like, is there a change that is being performed against this specific business service? So that might actually be the root cause of the issue that this person is currently raising. From this, like this is a very kind of list overview. I can of course also open up a visualization of that view where I can get it in the graphical overview. See which computers are connected. Over here I see the data center. If I click the plus sign next to it, I will see which servers are running on this data center. And then from there I can like continue clicking the plus button to get a complete view of my infrastructure in here. Okay, that really helps me to determine what is the impact of my issue and also what is the root cause of my issue that I'm experiencing. Okay, now the next thing I want to cover is the new employee onboarding. So I raised a request for a new employee, Keith Wood, in our organization starting the 1st of June. Whenever I open up that specific service request, and this is coming from the service catalog on the self-service portal, I will get a similar view to an incident. So of course I also have those SLA capabilities. I will have my suggestions in here. But the big difference for a service request is that I have that form that the end user has filled out on the top of my page. So I directly know what it's about and what this end user will need for this specific, in this case, new employee that is coming on board. Could also be for a new laptop or a monitor request or whatever. Application access request, something like that. Okay. The other big difference compared to an incident is we know what this request is about. So we know this is about a new employee onboarding, and we know what needs to happen for new employee onboarding. So when we go into the process tab, we will see the entire process build out for a new employee onboarding. And this is something that you guys will define for your own services that you deliver to your end users. So you will build out that process and you will define like, where do I need an approval? Where do I need a task to be triggered to someone? Where do I might want to have an API call to another system? So what you will see in this process is the first step is an approval step. The human resource team needs to approve this new hire. Whenever they approve that, a task will go out to the HR team, which you see that will now be triggered to just validate the data basically. And after doing that, I will get a more complex process where I have a separate process, separate workflow for HR, separate one for finance, and a separate one for IT. So you can also work cross-departmental. And also within the IT team, you might have a networking team, you might have a hardware team, and an application team. You will have them involved in one of the same processes, but you want to allow them to work on a separate instance, on a separate workflow, and have that all aligned to the same request. So whenever I complete that step, you will now see that several tasks will be triggered. where there was an automated step in here, an API call to Bumble HR to automatically populate the employee over there, but also some manual tasks that they need to complete after. And HR now doesn't need to wait for finance to complete those steps. They can just work on their own workflow and complete those, and finance and IT the same thing. Of course, you can complete those tasks from within the interface over here. I can also do it on my mobile phone or within the portal. Okay. So those are the highlights that I put together for today. Like building out this process, it's not very complex. It's quite easy to do so. I over here have a quick screen where I can show you like how the process building goes. It's all in a drag and drop interface where you can add in new steps, add in new conditions, where you make variances in your process and make it as easy or complex as you would like to. Yeah. And that will help you guys to drive efficiency within your business and make sure that the service gets delivered at the right time with the right quality. Okay. I think let's jump back into the slides. Are there any questions for the demonstration that I've shown so far?
Yeah, Patrick, we had one more question that came in, and the participants asking, do we need to maintain the smart solution, or does it capture credible information from the network?
Do we need to maintain a smart solution? Not sure if I understand that question.
Yeah, so Keelam, if you want to elaborate what you mean by smart solution, can you talk a little bit, Patrick, about kind of what type of information Service Desk is working with and where that information can be sourced from? You mentioned the ability to pull information from Orion, right?
Yeah, and that's mainly looking at the asset management perspective. So for our asset management module, we have our own discovery tools, like a network discovery tool, an agent that can be installed on the machines. And we can also integrate with, for example, Orion. So to get the asset information from Orion into our solution, we can integrate to SCCM, AWS to get your cloud devices in there as well, and VMware vCenter. And you can also, of course, use the API to build your own custom integrations and populate the CMDB. So there are a lot of ways of populating that CMDB and connecting everything together. That's especially if you have different sources. This is the place where you combine all of those sources and connect it to each other and connect it to your business services.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a big part of what we see from a maturity perspective and talking to our end users is how deep or broad their awareness of what that service catalog should look like as it pertains to their business services. I think also we're seeing a maturity happening in the marketplace right now with some of the examples that you showed, Patrick, around involving other teams in an IT sort of approach to service delivery. So being able to have HR using the tool, being able to have finance using the tool. And I think these are some great examples of what's really not only possible, but what's a great best practice, because there's such an intrinsic IT relationship between those activities and those teams. And so I think that's a great demo. Let's see if we've got any other questions to cover off. And we've got about, we're well ahead of time. We've got about 15 minutes left here. So we'll give the audience, we'll give all the participants a chance to ask any additional questions before we wrap up. So as Helen stated at the top of the session, there will be a recording of this and it will be sent out to everybody who participated. So thank you again very much for your time today. So we have a couple more questions that have come in. Expand this out here so I can see them. And clarification on that smart solution, it says here, you were mentioning that we can capture more information on for an issue encountered, additional information or attachment using the smart solution option on, there was a tree on the one side, on the right side of the incident management.
Yeah, so I think that one is talking either about the suggestions when I was creating a ticket, where it automatically suggested a category in there on how to categorize my ticket. Right. And then based on that, you can define what other information you want to request from the end user. So you can per category, per subcategory, you can build in additional fields in that form and ask them for the right information. So in my scenario, I had a Zoom issue. So it was asking me about what type of Zoom version are you using. For a laptop issue, you could ask what type of issue are you experiencing. So you can further classify your ticket basically and build automation rules based on that. That's I think the main goal that you want to reach with that is that you want to use that data that they're entering there and either directly point it to the correct team or you want to leverage it further in the process.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So hopefully that answers the question. And let's just see if we have any other questions here. And if not, we'll be ready to conclude here in a moment.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything at the moment, Bill.
All right. Well, thank you again, everybody, for taking the time to join today. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional questions that come up after the session. And again, we will get the recorded session sent out to everybody. Thank you, Patrick, for your expertise, and the demo is wonderful. And as always, thank you, Helen, for your kicking off here today and organizing the event. Very well done. Thanks, Helen.
Thanks very much. And just a quick reminder from me, if you could complete the survey, just to give us some feedback at the end, that would be great.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks very much.